India has a demographic problem. Typically, nations have a roughly equal number of men and women in the population. But in India today, for every 1,000 men, 57 women are missing from the data. Scale that up, and nearly 37 million women are missing from India's population. We looked at the Indian census data from the colonial period, 1881 to 1931, to find out whether India's male-by-sex ratios have historical origins. During the colonial rule, the British government created a system to count Indian population every 10 years. What's clear from looking at this data is that the spatial patterns in the sex ratios that existed in colonial India are still found today. Take a look at this chart. Along the x-axis is the percentage of women under the age of 10 in the population in 1931. On the y-axis, we have the same information from 2011. Each dot represents a specific district within India. The correlation is clear to see. Those districts which had a male-by-sex ratio in 1931 still have low levels of women in their populations today. When we map 1931 sex ratios geographically, we start to see that in colonial India there was a north-south divide. In the north, the population was made up of less than 47% women. However, in the south, the sex ratio was evenly balanced. This north-south divide still appears today in the recent census from 2011. One explanation given for this north-south divide is the type of crops grown in the two regions. Rice is grown extensively in the south and the east, while wheat is the main crop of the northern regions. Women typically play a larger role in rice cultivation than in the production of wheat. Could the economic value of women in the southern rice-growing areas have positively affected the sex ratios there? We do not find robust evidence of this in the colonial data. We also looked at differences in sex ratios between age groups within the colonial censuses. This graph starts to show what we found. It shows the variation in sex ratios for each age group starting from 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and so on from the 1901 census. Whilst there is a noticeable share of missing women in the youngest age group, the largest deficit of women appears in the age group 10 to 20. Two reasons explain this. First, evidence shows that maternal mortality was high in colonial India, particularly for young first-time mothers. Most births took place at home, and therefore facilities that are available in hospitals in the case of complicated births was not available for most women. The second explanation notes the likelihood of biased reporting. Women around this age were likely to be reported as either younger if unmarried or older if already married. By analyzing the colonial census data, we can start to understand the long-term trends behind India's historical male-biased sex ratio. And this paper might shed some light on why the prevalence of missing women continues today.